I just want to say like what you ladies are doing, and what I'm trying to create at Restaurant Unstoppable Network. I'm gonna do a selfish plug here, is to create space. Every other week, I host a space called Coffee with Eric, and it's literally what you ladies do. Where anything you want to talk about, what's your challenge today? What do you want to talk about? It's a space with restaurant owners from all over the country coming, making themselves available, and then we also have a profit power hour where Fred Langley, the CEO of Restaurant Assistance Pro, is there to help you bring your P&L. Like, we will break it down, we'll look at it, we'll share information, and this is just the beginning. The vision is to get mentors, people from all walks of life in the industry, whether it be fast casual, QSR, whatever, there to like help segment people, find people that are in their space that are looking for help. But we go further together, and my dream, my hope is that Restaurant Unstoppable Network spills over, and we encourage people to do exactly what you ladies are doing here, to find your own group of people in your community and to go further together, because your community is likely a unique community, and you need people who are going through what you're going through where you are physically. So I just want to like take this opportunity to make an example of you ladies. I want to encourage more people to do what you're doing, and if you want to break the ice and start with the digital community, Restaurant Unstoppable Network, we're here for you. And if you can't afford the $47 a month, let me know. Like, if you need to get in, I'll make sure you get in. If you need the help, we'll figure it out.
This episode made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro.
With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guests. That's plural. We have 4 guests with us today. We're talking to Piage Gould, Ilma Lopez, Michelle, Corry, and Theresa Chan. My ladies, are you feeling unstoppable today?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. We're caffeinated. We are unstoppable.
That was Paige. That was Paige, Ilma, Michelle, and Theresa. Get to know those voices. I'm sure I'll take some time to lock it in. But the reason why I'm here is because, well, I wanted to speak to you, Paige, get you back on the show. Michelle and Theresa, I'd love to get you on the show as well. I want to go deep into your individual stories. Let's try to make that, put that on the calendar before I leave today. But Paige, you said, hey, I would love to come back on the show to pick up where we left off, but how about we get this group of ladies together that we have? What do you call them?
My husband calls it the power lunch whenever we go out to lunch together. So it's my power lunch ladies.
Awesome. And Paige and I are sharing a microphone, so if you hear something moving back and forth, that's why. So basically, we usually start every episode off with a success quarter mantra, and I wanted to lead that today. And I'm going to say we go further together. And we're actually just talking about this in the episode Paige and I recorded. It's definitely an underlining theme and pattern and trend among the most successful restaurateurs in every city that I travel to. It's always those who choose to go for like to get together, to share, to support each other, to not see each other as competition, but as, you know, comrades or colleagues or people who are all trying to get to the same thing. How can we go further together? And they do go further together. So I first want to start by just acknowledging you ladies for being willing to share, to open up, to be vulnerable, and to support one another. And it probably explains why there's a lot of success at this table. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it to you, Paige. So tell us a little bit more about these gatherings.
So last June, some of my friends up in the Deer Isle area decided to put on this little women's retreat. And it was for women business owners that were either in the industry or industry adjacent. And we went up to this island and we were there for 3 days, and it was a very relaxing experience. It was also a very nice bonding experience with a lot of other restaurateurs that I didn't know very well. And it was just really lovely. And Michelle was there with me. And when we got back, I really wanted to think of a way of how to emulate that, of getting together with a bunch of different business owners. And me and Michelle would have lunch. And I mean, I love Theresa and Ilma too, but we never really made time to actually all try to be together and to be in the same room. So then I said, okay, well, we all have kids and we all have businesses. So what's the easiest thing for us to do is to get together at lunch, because we all have to eat.
So one thing I'm curious about, any one of you ladies, have you ever been worried or fearful to reach out to other people in the industry? Has that ever been a thing for you? Or Ilma's shaking her head yes. Michelle, I think you were saying no.
I haven't. I've always felt comfortable
especially I think with other women, especially with women that share, that are successful, that have kids, that have the same problems, the same, personal problems as well as business problems, or not even problems, successes, whatever it is. But from my point of view, from being in this business for 20 years, I think almost everyone in this town, this city, or Maine in general has always been supportive. I remember opening a restaurant, the first customers were the DeMillos and Dana Street. So, it's just always felt like a great community to
And you
us.
were like early 2000s, 2004,
2003.
2003? Okay. So,
Oh, you're dating me now.
sorry. Did a little bit of research. Theresa, what are your thoughts? So I didn't see a reaction from you when I asked that question of did you feel worried to approach other people?
I had a similar experience to Michelle where I feel like Portland in general is a very welcoming place to do business. And even before we opened our doors, we received an overwhelming amount of support. I remember, I don't know, just walking down the street when we were doing build out, just trying to test some cocktails and not having the ingredients on hand. And I went down the road to, what is it called? The bar that is no longer there, that had the roosters right next to Portland Stage.
Pearl?
Right next to Portland Stage. No.
The Rooster, don't ask me. I'm from New Hampshire.
Right. Okay. Well, now
If it comes to your mind, let us know.
Yes, and I remember walking down and asking if they had some limes and telling them about what was happening, and they just immediately were like, "You are going to blow it out of the water. Like, come to us for anything. Like, we're so excited for you." And that was just during build out. So from then, it was just an upward trajectory of support from the community. And I tell everybody, I say, like, it's overwhelming how supportive the industry in Portland is.
And I realize I introduced you by name, but I didn't say your restaurant. So I want to make sure, Theresa, you own Empire?
I'm the founder of Empire, yeah.
The founder-
Empire Chinese Kitchen.
And when did you open?
2013.
13. Michelle, you were the founder of 555?
Yep, and then Petite Jacqueline,
Okay.
so 2003 and 2011.
And then you closed 555 recently, but now you have 555 North where you're a consultant.
In Brunswick, correct.
In Brunswick. Ilma, recently on the show, like less than 10 episodes ago, Chaval and the Ugly Duckling.
Duckling.
Thank you. And previously, the Italian concept.
Piccolo.
Thank you very much. And then we literally just recorded Paige, and you are the co-owner of Central Provision, Tipo, and help me out. Finestkind. Thank you very much. Sorry, lots of restaurant names to keep track of in my hand. So, Paige, you felt open to talk to people. Michelle, you felt open. Theresa, you felt open. Ilma, you shook your head no to that question.
It's scary. It's scary. Like, if you're not, I mean, granted, I'm not from here, didn't grow up here. So it was like that. I feel open with people that I really care and I really admire, but also it's hard to talk to people that I don't know much from. And like, what point or how much information can you give them? Or, like what you can ask. And that's one of those things, like I'm one of those people that I feel like some people you can give them a ton of information and never going to use it against you. But also it's a huge percentage that will use any information they have against you. So I'm extremely worried.
And I mean, I definitely hear what Ilma's saying, and I think that the whole community was very supportive. But I think the difference between the ladies that are sitting here at this table now and the rest of the community is I do feel completely comfortable being completely vulnerable with them and talking about the harder things with them that I might pretend aren't happening if I was talking to another business owner.
Yeah, that's one of the beautiful things about the space that Paige curated for us to be vulnerable with one another. It's like totally casual, and it's just like a group of four of us, and I think before then, like there was no outlet to be completely vulnerable.
And I will say, when I was thinking about this show, I mean, that's the key because, first of all, we're women. So I think that's even more pressure on us not to be vulnerable or not to show our vulnerable side to other people. And then a thing to remember is that we don't really have peers within our workplaces, like most of the majority of people do. we're the boss, maybe our husbands, but we're the boss, so we can't vent. We can't tell them about our problems. We have to come to work the same every day. So, finding a space that we can do all that and be honest. I think a lot of restaurateurs feel they can ask for help and you can say some things, but then there's always that like little bit of stuff you hold back, like, oh, we had a great year. The numbers were terrific. You're like, because you don't want to say that you're failing, or, you don't want to put that out there before someone else puts that out there, or, except for these ladies, I'm totally comfortable telling Paige, geez, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to swear here, so because I'm a really bad potty mouth. But
our target audience is restaurant owners. So
okay, great.
This is also a safe space.
Perfect. I was worried about that driving her, but be like, I had a really shit week last week. Our numbers are way down. What the fuck, Paige? What about you? And if she says I had a good week, I don't feel like she's being a bitch. I feel like she's like, no, let me help. What could be possibly going on? Or yeah, me too. It really sucked. I'm like, okay, good. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. So I think it's really important to understand why we need that space and that total honesty.
Go ahead, Emma.
And the other thing for me is like being a mom. Yes, like obviously the restaurant is super important. I want to talk about the restaurant and make sure that we showcase it. And that's the reason that it's hard. Like, let's say I'm fighting with Damon this week, hypothetically speaking. And who do you talk to? Because I cannot talk to anyone, because then that's going to be related to the restaurant.
Yeah.
So I want people to be able to come to a restaurant and be like, oh my God, we're a perfect family. We have everything together. Like, we love each other every single day. But like, seriously, like when in reality, or like my daughter was having a really hard time, or our daughter was having a really hard time with school a few years ago. And who do you talk to?
Right. Well, a couple of things are running through my mind. First, like, we're in the experience economy, and it's our job to transport our guests to a different place where we're trying to create this space for them to feel like they can let go. We don't want to burden them with our concerns and our fears. That's our job, is to literally let them escape their shit. So like, it's where do you go to get that support, right? Exactly. And it's so important to create this space. But I think what you said, Michelle, really struck a chord with me, and this idea that, we want to stay positive all the time. But the truth of the reality is the restaurant industry holistically is struggling. There's a lot of people doing well. There's more people struggling. And I am positioned really well to know this truth, because it's my job to go talk to people and get them to open up and get vulnerable. And I've recently really pushed to get numbers and be like, what is your gross? What are your prime costs? What is your percent profit? And the amount of squirming that I see in the seats when I start asking these questions, and I'm not trying to be a dick, pardon my language, but really what I'm trying to do is just to get the industry to realize that we are holistically not doing well. And there's things that could change. And it's the people that want to do the right thing that seem to be struggling the most, because it's harder and harder to do the right thing. I see you shaking your heads, yes. With the exception of Theresa, do you disagree?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay, so as I say that, like, who has something to reciprocate on her?
Well, I will add, it's not just about us venting about our children and our husbands and our, restaurants. It is about solution based as well. I mean, I learned so much from these ladies, and I trust them completely because they're extremely successful, and I also know they're doing things correctly, whether it's, by the book, or at least trying to do things. And that's what we do. I think I'm doing the tip credit right. I think I'm doing overtime right. To help me out. Am I doing it right? No, you're doing it wrong. Okay. Well, so I know that we're trying to do things correctly, which is great, because I really try to do things correctly. And then successfully, very, very smart business women. So I trust their opinion. So we're also there. How do you retain employees? How do you blah, 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 so it's not just a event fest, although that's a big part of it, but it's also, then it turns to problem solving and learning from each other.
So I'm just going to go ahead and put out there a really good example of that was just a couple years into me owning Central Provisions. I happened to be having a conversation with Michelle, and she's like, "Oh, these I-9s, they're so annoying," and and she had gotten a labor audit, and So she was talking about it, and I go, I'm sorry, what? What's an I-9? And then I found out that I had not been doing something that I had to be doing. And I went back and I corrected it and I got all of the things that I needed to get. But if I hadn't had that conversation with Michelle, and if she hadn't offhandedly mentioned how annoying the I-9s are, which they are, I would have not been doing things legally.
Or feeling confident. That's what we're talking about. Or feeling confident to say, oh, shit, Michelle, I don't think I'm doing these right. Instead of, I think if it might be someone else that you weren't comfortable with, you might slink back to your office and be like, what the fuck? But now she could ask me, it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I need help. And there's no judgment there, because tomorrow I'll tell her I'm doing something wrong and I need her help. Like, so, you know.
Well, do you remember when I was going to be deporter that I called you guys? You see? Things like that.
So, Ilma, you mentioned something else too, that you pointed out that there are people out there that will exploit you if you choose to get vulnerable with them. Some people, right? I think you said that was one of your concerns. Are you guys familiar with the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule?
Oh.
It's the same thing. The Pareto principle is that basically like 80% of your yield comes from 20% of your work. So I think that in that balance, that it's also where typically there's like the most peak efficiency, like 80-20. So like in aviation, right? Like when you're at 80% power, you're going to get the maximum like range for like distance, because like it's like the most optimal point of like operating 80-20, this number that keeps showing up over and over again in the world. And I think that good and evil is kind of that split too. 80% of people are gonna want to are good people who will do things, but that 20% is probably closer to like 5 or 10% of really, really bad people who you hear about, who create the fear, because when they do shitty things, it can ruin you. And I think we just have to keep in mind that the majority of people will be there to help you. And I think our goal is to, as society, is to encourage people to lean in the direction of good and not fear, a place of abundance, not scarcity. But we only do that by making an example of those who are doing it. So I just want to say thank you for being willing to come and talk about how you're doing it. Paige, somebody said, you were the person that kind of started this all. And Michelle, you were talking about how you just can go here and feel safe. So like, if somebody's listening to this and they're envious of what you ladies have built, like what advice do you all have for just getting started with something like this?
Come on out lunch with us.
Come have lunch. Yeah. I mean, honestly, lunch was the easiest thing for all of us, because we're mothers, because we're business owners, and because all of our restaurants are open at night. Some of us have AM services too, but it's a lot easier for us to be able to step away for that AM and just think of a bunch of people you like and invite them all to have dinner. I think, Theresa, I was talking with you. I think you were the first person I was talking to, and I was like, let's do lunch. And you're like, let's go to Taj. And I was like, do you mind if I invite Michelle and Ilma too?
Yeah, I think putting yourself out there is just like to someone you feel comfortable with, because that's just like a ripple effect. Then they'll put themselves out there to someone else. And every human being can use support. No matter how successful you are, you can use support.
And make time. I mean, everyone is busy, but we're moms and wives and business owners. It's very hard to make time, but you need to do it because it's important for your well-being, but for your business, like you learn stuff, and but it's important to, make yourself do it, even if it makes your day more hectic or whatever, and make a lot of time. Like we sit there for a long time. We do. Yeah. So like it can't just be like an hour or half an hour.
How much time?
At least 2 hours, maybe more, 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, what a special number that is. People told me when I went to 2 hours long with my podcast that it was too long. I'm like, that's how much time people need to get it out.
Absolutely.
Like, go ahead.
But they said, Caker, like afterwards, like, okay, we have to run. Yeah. We'll talk next time.
Yeah. Well, we're never finished. Like, honestly, we could sit for 10 hours, but that's, that's our max.
It's also why I get people back on the show, because I know, like, we'll just pick up where we left off.
What up, Unstoppables? I have a very special offer for you that could potentially change your life. So listen up. Restaurant Systems Pro wants to make 2025 your best year ever. And here's what they're going to do to help. When you sign up for Restaurant Systems Pro through February of 2025, they will do your books, your 2024 books for you at zero charge. Nothing to you, no cost to you to do your books. Plus, you're going to get all of the Restaurant Systems Pro profitability systems. So this is such a no-brainer deal. If you've heard of Restaurant Systems Pro in the past, listening to the podcast, and you've been interested, now is the time to sign up. Head to restaurantunstoppable.com/RSP or click the link below and make 2025 your best year ever.
Well, the other thing is like, again, like it's not like we talk anything bad. We literally generally talk to each other. And afterwards, it's actually pretty cool. Like even Damon calls me and was like, okay, what did you learn today? What did you guys talk about? Because like, it's not like, we don't just like sit there and just complain. Like it's generally fun.
Yeah.
Like we talk about random things. And for me, the three of them like helped me realize like all the stuff that I could be doing on my own. Not that I don't do anything, but like I just focus on like the restaurant and the kids and Damon and whatnot. Like, and Michelle the other is like, oh yeah, like I'm going surfing. And I was like, damn, I'm going to start like deep in the winter. And I started doing it. It's actually pretty cool. But like little things like that, everyone does stuff. And so it's nice to see that everyone makes time for themselves. Like as a, you know, as a business owner, mom, whatever you want to call it, like they make time for themselves and take care of themselves. So it's really, really cool.
Yeah, I think that's another good point. Inspiring. You come back from the lunch inspired, whether it be your personal life or something like, oh, Ilma's doing this really cool thing in her restaurant. We should try it. Or, you know, Theresa's pregnant again. I don't want to do that. Nobody wants to do this.
Not this many times.
But no, I'm just kidding. No, because I'm inspired because she's a beautiful pregnant woman and she handles it so well. And yeah, you just come out of it inspired, you know, and I think that's as important as all the other parts of it.
Theresa, earlier you said it ripples out. And like, I love that mindset of it rippling out. And, you know, it starts with one person and that ripples and then it becomes 4 people and then that ripples. And then hopefully people are listening to this and getting inspired across the country and they're doing the same thing. But also I think it compounds. So when you start these new habits, good habits beget good habits. And those habits spill over. Those habits inspire other people. To your point, Michelle, like it's inspiring, it's motivational. And like, this is when I say I think the restaurant industry has the power to change the world. It's because of people like you ladies being willing to lead by example. And then it will compound and it will ripple out to your greater community. I think it's super powerful. I am curious, and I would love to go around and like, what are like the biggest things that you learned as a result of coming together? And how long have you been doing it now?
Since last July. We've been doing it since July. Okay. I would say altogether, I mean, we're not good about doing it every month, but we've probably had about 5 lunches. Not everybody's always able to go, but we try our best. And I'm sorry, you had said you were looking for specific information, and now I don't remember.
Well, yeah. So it's been 5 months, right? So I mean, now I'm even more interested in relative. What is that? 6 months?
Yeah.
July. Yeah. I mean, it's been about 6 months. I'm just curious to know what level of impact this has had on your lives and your business.
I think it's really nice just to be able to, like Michelle was saying earlier, know where everybody's really at and to know if are you seeing the same things, and it helps you keep a little bit of a better pulse on exactly what's going on. And are you having a hard time attracting new employees? What are you doing in order to attract new employees? And or, oh, I heard this bartender is available. Is anybody looking? So we try to help each other out like that a lot too. But I mean, other things even as much as like Michelle's son helped Ilma's daughter learn how to ride a bike. So
like community.
Yeah,
you know?
community.
Yeah. But I think what I got from you, the big things is just benchmarking, which I think is something we could be better about, sharing numbers, being vulnerable, understanding how we line up. And, oh, wow, you have a 20%, 15% labor cost. How the hell did you do that? Like, what are you doing? Go ahead.
Well, that's the other thing is one thing with them, or to me that it makes me feel better. It's like, even though I'm saying something negative or positive, whatever that may be that I'm saying to them, like, they never take it. One, they get excited for you, and second, they're super positive. Like, if I'm saying something negative, they will try to find the positive thing in what I'm saying, not to make you feel bad. Like, they generally want to make you feel better, and they want you to find the solution for it. So it's pretty.
So when you criticize somebody or give constructive
no, like
criticism,
between the four of us, like, yeah, constructive criticism.
yeah, but I think that's love.
Yes.
I mean, having the love to get
Empathy.
to be honest and transparent, because you're not serving that person by not telling them.
For me, I leave, and it's going to sound corny, but I'm the old lady of the group, but I leave wanting to be a better person, wanting to be a better boss, wanting to be a better mother, because they're amazing women. And I'm not just saying that, but they're very great bosses, and they do really good things for their employees. And I leave every time thinking, I could be better. I could be better. They're so good, you know. And
How have you become a better person because of this?
just by that, by thinking, how can I be better? You know,
How is it
how can I be
manifested?
more like, you know, more like Paige, more like
But
more like Theresa.
How are you being more like these women? I see you.
Well, some of it is actionable. Some of it is, okay, Paige did this new thing for her employees. I'm going to look into that, whether it's some wellness, some mental health wellness. So some of it is directly actionable. You can go back right away and implement some things. Some of it is more esoteric, like you know, look inside and say, how can I be more patient? How can I be more empathetic to my staff, to my husband?
Is this manifest? Is this like manifesting? Are you seeing the needle move in your life?
Yeah, absolutely.
How?
Well, like I said, the actionable stuff you can implement immediately. I think for me, when I was running 2 restaurants and like really, really in it, you know, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I didn't have this, you know, and I was really, really involved in the minutia, and it was hard to step back and say, am I serving my employees as best I can? And I think their attitudes are better about that. So I think I've learned to step back a little bit from the business and look at it more from a people angle. You know, that's just one example, but
Got it.
you know, they're kind and compassionate and smart. So when you combine that, you can be compassionate and still
helps
be
you get outside of
successful
your
business.
own
Yeah,
head, your own
exactly.
perspective.
I'm really in my head. I'm
Yeah.
a type A. I think we all are. That's the problem. You know, like very OCD. And I think, you know, taking a step back and, you know, but some of it is actionable, and some of it, I mean, I think some of it, we leave these lunches and immediately go back and like immediately do something to help the business. And some of it is more mindful and slower, or, you know, I think there are actionable that even aren't right away. You're just sort of like,
It's not going to happen overnight.
it's not going to happen
That
overnight,
constant-
but you're thinking about it now.
Yeah.
And then also, you know, after those lunches, it's not like we don't talk to each other. I mean, then we're texting constantly about problems and calling and stuff, which is great. And I think when we come together, then we are feeling more connected. So for the next, you know, couple of weeks, we're doing it more, and then we drift apart and then come back.
Ilma's been very patient.
Sorry. No.
She's chomping at the bit.
No, but it's the same thing. Like, for example, all of us have different qualities or characteristic, and to the point that like Paige once came over just to show me how to do payroll faster. So little things like that, yes, it's what you're saying. Like, we leave, I noticed myself like 2 weeks into it, I'm like, okay, I need a lunch.
Yeah.
I need to get this.
Yeah.
I need to get this ready. But like, so that's pretty cool. And the other thing is like, I usually leave the same thing as Michelle. Like, how the hell does Paige have so much time in her day? Dude, seriously, you're so organized. She has fun. Like, how the heck do you guys do it?
Well,
So it's pretty neat.
I love that, but now I'm going to push a little further. And what did Paige teach you? How are you doing payroll faster? Like, what are you learning that you're implementing in your life?
Okay, super dumb. She does like this whole list and she copy pastes like, so everyone has like a little code, and she just makes sure that she puts those codes everything, and all the information goes from one page to the other.
So
I was doing one by one.
What platform are you using?
I do Gusto.
Google.
Gusto.
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 Thank you. Sorry, you're probably saying it right. I'm sure you are. Gusto. So that's HR platform. So you're all using Gusto or Gusto? No,
it's different. It's a different platform, but I just have an Excel sheet that is really efficient that I developed on my own, and so I went and I showed her. Yeah, I know. I love my sheets.
You've got your sheets together.
I'm a freak in the sheets, if you will. But just showing her my sheet and how it functions and how that you could copy and paste a lot of this and just download it, and it can automatically go in instead of individually inputting every single one, and that, the 5 minutes adds up every single week and the minutes become hours.
Are you sharing your sheets? Like, are you like...
Oh, yeah. I'm more than happy to share my sheet, and I actually formatted it in a way that it could be customizable and all of that. I think I've actually tried to push it upon a couple of people, but nobody's taken it yet. That's okay.
This is the power. It's exactly short. This is the power of going further together. It just ripples out, and there's things you don't see. And I think I like to use the analogy of we're tribal animals, and we evolved the majority of our existence as species on this planet as needing the tribe to exist. If we weren't in a tribe, we were done. We would not survive unless we were a part of a tribe, which I think is one of the reasons why third on that hierarchy of needs is being seen. Because if you weren't seen, then you weren't valued. And I think that's why we all strive for this desire to be seen and valued, so we don't get cast aside. And like when you are seen for what you're doing and you bring something to the tribe is stronger and you go further. I always like to bring it back to anthropology. I apologize. But Theresa, thank you. I don't know why I was struggling getting that out. Theresa, what you've been quiet. I'm curious what's going through your mind.
I was just thinking about what everyone said, and what Michelle said is very true. We don't have peers typically, and I feel like a restaurateur is a certain type of personality, and moreover, a female restaurateur is a certain type of personality, because it's almost like we cannot be alpha all the time, because that's not what's going to get the best results, especially since, we have like partners and husbands, and sometimes the husbands are the partners, and we do take a role where we are also managing their expectations and their emotions. And then at the same time, we have to be like warm and supportive of every single person under our roof. And I feel like with that kind of, with all that pressure, it's easy to say, like, okay, well, this is the path forward that I'm going to take, and I'm going to be steadfast about it because that's the only way that I'm going to get results. But when we meet with peers, it's just like a great conglomerate of ideas, and like seeing how each person has optimized, and you just kind of skim the top of that. It's like efficiency of work. Someone's done the work, and you see if it's applicable to solve a struggle that you're having. And is that I think that's the ultimate. The group is stronger, and I think specifically in the personality or role of female restaurateur, it's just one. It's like pressure over surface area. Like we are dealing with it, and when we don't deal with it alone, and we're able to kind of spread that out and get our ideas and our thoughts out to other people, good can come of it. When we're like all optimizing as a group, when we're all in similar boats.
Sometimes it's just good to have someone say, "You look pretty today, and you're doing great. You're amazing. You're really smart." We don't hear that a lot because we're the boss. So there's no boss telling us, "You're doing a good job, Michelle. Way to go. Way to hit that labor." But when you go to lunch, sometimes it's just nice or something.
Being seen.
Yeah. And complimented. It's nice.
Yeah. I think to Theresa's point, like when we internalize everything and we have no way to exercise our thoughts to get it out. When you get it out, when you verbalize it, you massage it. You're able to work through it. You're able to have other people poke holes in what you're feeling and thinking. And that perspective is so valuable. I do have another question, but I want to pull us off of this if somebody wants to jump in. Okay. So you pointed out, Theresa, that as women restaurateurs, or even there's being a restaurateur, which is a unique case, but then there's being a female restaurateur. What are some of the unique challenges that you feel safe to talk about in your space that are unique that I think need to be discussed more from your perspective? Like, what don't I understand I'm not even a restaurateur technically, and last time I checked, I was a guy too. So.
Well, it's interesting because even if there's like if a male restaurateur stand alone, their wife or partner is not in the business, there's always a restaurant mom. Always. There's always that role of the woman who is either in the background or in the forefront, and they are helping to manage emotions because help to manage emotions and like the finer details that I think some people just aren't built for. And, it's not gender specific, but I feel like there is always a restaurant mom.
I think there's some truth to evolutionary biology, where I think women tend to be naturally empathetic in caring, in nurturing. I don't want to speak out of line, but to your point, there's a pattern where like women tend, or like the issues tend to move in the direction of women because they're willing to receive it. Go ahead.
They're willing to receive it, and they're willing to put their feelings and what they think and what they want aside to be able to receive everyone else's feelings.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that specifically for females, I'm not saying that males cannot do this. What I'm saying is like, for example, in our case, like Damien will do the numbers and will do all these things. But like if it's a core problem or something as simple as like, oh my God, we run out of coffee. They don't tell Damien like, please go to the store and get coffee. They come to me.
Right.
So it's like, it could be like something basic or something like, oh my God, I'm really feeling bad. Like, let me talk to someone. So all those things, like we absorb all of it, but never once they're asking like, hey, how are you doing today? Like, do you have a space or time to absorb all my feelings? No, you just have to be ready all the time.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And we can't ask our employees to be those people for us. It'd be very, very unfair of us to ask the employees to be that. We are those people for our employees, but you don't want to put your own personal stuff on your employees.
I think it's illegal, right?
Probably.
Someone's going to make it illegal.
Yeah, but it just doesn't make for a good dynamic. But having that release valve of being able to interact with these wonderful women is fantastic. And also, I mean, we'll if we have an issue, we'll sit there and we'll explain what the issue is, and then everybody will weigh in and everybody will say what they think should be done. And it's interesting to see also how different everybody's opinion is. And it's nice to be able to get everybody's opinion and then be able to attack the issue coming with several different angles.
And not once has anyone been defensive. Like, that's the tricky part, I feel like, if you don't have the right chemistry.
Talking about your internal group.
Our internal group, like, not, you're just say what the problem, no one's judging you or being like, I can't believe you did that, you're an idiot. Like, you should have known that. I might say, well, this is the law, but hopefully I don't come across as like, you should have known that, dummy, because there's so much crap out there and we can't know it all. And a lot of times we only know it because we've done it wrong and got caught. So we let them, or not got caught, like, but, figured out we did it wrong and want to make sure.
It's just going to happen this one time. Well, if it happens again, like, I won't let it happen again. And then before you know it, like that leash of that, letting that bad thing happen gets too long and it becomes an issue.
Yeah. But I think the defensive part is nice because you don't have to feel like you're defending yourself. We're not defending ourselves. We're just trying to figure out a better solution. I also want to say that I would not have survived COVID or the PPP without Paige.
She became
same,
hands down.
Same.
We talked to each other so much, and whether it was about the PPP or grants or something, my husband, he's my business partner, but he just didn't have the capacity. I took on that role. He took on more of the kitchen role, and we were both doing our things at our maximum capacity. And it just wasn't my forte. But we were back and forth about unemployment every time we had something new or a new grant or a new deadline, like, get on the phone now, I just learned this or whatever. It just was so important. And that was really important because I was just there were days I was in tears just trying to figure out how to submit something. I'm so bad at the computer. I'm the old lady, remember? So I need their help with computer stuff. And, it was just super hard. So everyone here was really helpful in exchanging information, what to tell our employees, how to help our employees through unemployment, who had a contact at unemployment, who had a better number, that kind of stuff was flying around, and that was so huge.
Yeah. Do you want?
Oh no, I was just like all flashing back, like COVID
Yes,
and
right.
everything.
I didn't want to bring it up.
Well, I mean, the first thing that Ilma did was get everyone together, like get the entire community of Portland
that's
together.
right. I forgot
to
about
talk
that.
about COVID and
Right.
what we were going to do as an industry.
But do you remember that we talked, like, the funny part is, like, we all got together in one room in
Right.
the middle of COVID
Yeah.
without a mask because we're super smart. So, like, we
And
were
it was
laughing.
packed.
Demi and I were laughing. It was like, if something happens to this building, restaurant doesn't have, like, Portland doesn't have restaurants.
Yeah.
It was all the owners here.
Week-long vacation.
But the thing is, like, and I remember vividly, do you remember we're like, okay, maybe we have to close for 2 weeks. And you remember Kara, which she's awesome too. Like, Kara's like, I can't close for 2 weeks. And little we know, we closed for months
Right.
and months and months.
Yeah.
It was tough. COVID was tough.
So I'm curious, what were in the past 6 months, like what have the hot topics been for you ladies? Like what are the things that keep surfacing the most, and what progress are you making? And Theresa, remember when I went over there and I poured myself a coffee? I left it over there like a knucklehead, and I've been afraid to block this camera. Do you mind?
Yeah.
Are you able to? Or oh my god, I asked the one pregnant woman and totally forgot. Thank you so much.
See, women being nurtured, taking care of men. You see.
Thank you. I've been like dying to have a sip of coffee. I'm like, oh, I keep
It's really
missing
good
that
coffee.
window. Yeah, it is good. I had a sip before I put it down. So back thank you, Theresa. Back to that question, like what are the trends? What are the things that you have identified that seem to be like discussed every month?
I mean, any new legislation, you know, doing that correctly, being aware. I'm like the legislation police. I'm like, okay, I'm on the authority for the paid family medical leave, so I always come to them with like, just be prepared. I feel like the mom sometimes. I'm like, make sure you're doing this right, or there's been a new audits around, or whatever. If someone's gunning for the industry, or I'm on the board of Hospitality Maine, so I have a lot of information that I feel like is hard to get for other people. So I sort of try to share that a lot at the beginning without trying to sound too much like a mom, but I also really want these guys to know. And
But she's helping us stay aware of it, and on top of it, it's also been very interesting to hear about how it's been evolving, and how Michelle's been fighting for our industry in the FMLA leave that's going to be coming up, and it's going to be paid FMLA leave, and just how she has made the whole group consider things and look at things differently, and fighting for our industry. So that's why we love you. One of the many reasons why.
Excuse me. Hospitality Maine, is that like the equivalent to the Maine Restaurant Association?
Was the Maine Restaurant Association, and they combined with the Innkeepers Association. So,
Got it.
Yep.
Hospitality Maine. So what were you saying, FLMA?
Paid family medical leave.
Okay. So what progress is Maine making on that front? And
So
is
it started. Hopefully, you guys all filled out your online form. So this is how it starts.
Yeah.
This is how it starts.
Well, if you're in Maine,
The what?
pay attention.
We'll talk after.
yeah.
We'll talk after. Yeah, it's into effect. So you should be collecting for your employees, and if you have more than 50 employees, you have to put in. And there's a spreadsheet you need to. Your payroll company will start collecting for a year, and then next year it'll start paying out.
How does that stack up against other states in the country?
Well, it's where to begin, but we could do a whole nother podcast of that. But there aren't that many states doing it. I think about 12 other maybe. We have a lot of similar things to some, and a lot of different for others. So it's we're finding our footing because it is quite different from a lot of the states.
Why is this part of the solution
For Maine, or
for the industry? If they're lobbying for the industry to make the industry stronger and better, why is this a core focus for Maine hospitality right now?
Well, it's going to affect us. It's complicated, and it's new, so there's a lot of weird things, and it's so complicated for everyone to understand and make sure you're doing it right, because there's penalties for doing it incorrectly, and
I think the hope is that this fund is going to be able to pay for up to 12 weeks of family and medical leave for anybody. So to make it more accessible for people to take off if they have to and they need to without being completely lack of any income.
And holding their job too. Yeah. Holding their job. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking about like one of the issues with this industry right now is that it's hard to find and keep employees. And can you blame the employee when there are far better benefits in other industries? I think we're starting to come around. We've moved the needle on that in the past 10 years for sure. But like we want to be treated like a real industry. We have to act like a real industry and do what real industries do for their employees. So I feel like this is a step in that direction. Go for it, Ilma.
Just putting something out there. Yes, I totally agree with you. And yes, I think like all of us want to give better. We want our employees to make more money. We want employers to have more benefits. Like who wouldn't? Like I would love to. I would love to have benefits myself. Like I think we all. But we also have to go back. Like we're not a big establishment.
Right.
So the income is not there. The profits are not there. So even though we want more benefits for our employees, we also have to be realistic.
100%.
What we're able to give them and how we're able to give them without, like, I remember the first time I talked to you, you wanted to make sure that we're doing everything right, but we're also making money. Right. So it's like that fine line of doing everything right. And we will figure out how to make money. We're not there yet, but we're trying to do our best every single day.
Does anybody want to chime in?
Yeah, I just want to say I also think it's really important, and what I fight a lot for when I do the legislature piece is that there's not one size fits all legislation, and that's what's really hurting sometimes our industry, because I think when people make laws in there, they're thinking of a lot of big industry, and they're not really, well, first of all, the restaurants are so different because our hours are different, and our seasonality is so different. And when somebody can't come to work, it's not like a legal office where the filing can be done tomorrow, you know. And I also think a majority of our restaurants are tiny. So that's one of the problems, much like Ilma says, like what works for IDEX doesn't work for Ilma's establishment, or at least in the same way.
Go ahead, Ilma.
And you cannot work from home. I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, no, like I see it. Like my cousins, both of them works in office, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I don't feel great, so like I'm walking to work from home." I was like, "Dude, I can't work from home." So like, if I'm sick, hypothetically speaking, like, or either we have to reassess the menu that day, or I have to work overnight. Like, for example, if my kids are sick, I cannot work during the day because my kids are home. So I have to work overnight to make sure that I'm working when my kids are at home with Damien. So everything changes. So even though I respect what you're saying, like, I do think we should be treated like a real industry, because we are. And we totally are. And we work super hard for it. It's just a matter of the revenue is not there.
Yeah. Sorry, you wanted to... You bring up something really important, Michelle, and Ilma, that, you know, people want to do the right thing. And this is one of the reasons why I reached out to Shelley Pingree to be a guest on the show, because I think I identified in Maine that it's getting harder and harder to do the right thing. And if that's the truth, if doing the right thing is the thing will put you out of business, then there's an issue. So how do we address that issue? And I think, you know, what I've learned is that there is, sometimes I read these books and I'm like, oh, God damn it, why did I do that? Because then, you know, and like I think I start to like fully understand this idea of ignorance is bliss, because sometimes it's not being aware of what's going on. But there's a lot of companies, if you have money, you have power, you can control the narrative, you can spin the agenda. To your point, Michelle, that these bigger organizations, a lot of the laws are built in favor of these big organizations, or they're built in, I don't know, like cahoots to make it easier for big organization and harder for small organization. I'm thinking about all the restrictions on farmers and being able to process livestock. Like, that's crazy that a farmer can't sell direct to farms, that has to be shipped out. I understand when they industrialized the food system that they had to put all these regulations in place because one farm was feeding millions of people, but maybe that's the problem. And now that they put all these regulations in place to save and protect the millions, maybe we were wrong in the first place to take that business model. Like, and the information flows like water today. We can get the knowledge out to farmers and how to do it right. We can regulate it without restricting it. So I'm hoping to talk to her about this, but I think the other thing I've identified is also the whoever has the money controls the message. The consumer is getting marketed to, and they have like this. We're selling convenience over everything else, and I mean I don't want to keep going. Like, I want to hear from your perspective. Am I spinning my tires right now? Like, what are your thoughts on what I'm sharing? Am I catching traction, or do you think I'm swinging and missing right now? Who wants? Or we totally talk about something else.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I think we got it. Yeah, I mean, it just, I think there's a vast majority of people don't know what goes on behind closed doors of restaurants, whether it's really understanding what the tip credit is, really understanding how it works, the hours that are worked, the size of our companies, the bottom line, the making like 5% of all the costs. And then as we're getting like strangled more, with regulations that aren't necessarily bad regulations, but things that don't necessarily fit into our business plan correctly. And no one's really taking the time to ask us how to do it better, or how we can do it together. I feel like we're left out of the conversation or a seat at the table a lot.
Is it that no one is asking us, or we're not willing to speak up and let people know?
I think no one's asking us. There's plenty of people willing to speak. Have you heard her?
I have.
I think no one's asking the right questions, or maybe no, I don't think they're asking. They don't really want to hear it, or they don't really want to understand it. I mean, we've been dealing with tip credit for how many years? Nobody wants to understand that. Nobody is asking. They get fed information, they believe it, they want to move on.
We'll get into that. Like, educate our listeners who are restaurant owners who might be impartial about this topic. Yeah. There goes Ilma.
Yeah.
So
she's not afraid.
So this is one of those things that going back to what we were saying before, like, not that I think people are out to get me or to get us. It's just is so much misinformation out there, or lack of information.
Right.
To put it better, it's like I feel what I'm going to say right now, a lot of people are going to be upset about.
Well, let's start by defining what is going on with the tip credit.
So to me, the whole tip credit, I think it's wrong for several reasons. One, I'm going to tell you as a cook, I'm a back of the house person. And every time that I bring the point that we shouldn't have tips, that everything should be spread evenly. And yes, not saying that I'm going to make the same thing as her, but it's like based on your job. If you're a killer server, obviously you're going to make more than the one that is not super great, or the one that is training. If you're a great cook, you're going to make more than the one that is training. Like, of course, like, it has to be divided of what you put in the table, what you bring to the table. But the bottom line is, like, I think the tip itself, you're tipping, you have the control of how much money that person is making, and I don't think it's fair for the person, because then you're just quantifying what they're doing and how they're doing. And some people are just quantifying how they look, and if they talk to me right. And it gets to the point, like, and I see it a bunch, and I see it especially in the morning sometimes, is people are coming and they have enough to buy like the coffee and the sandwich, or the coffee and whatever it is, but they don't have enough for the tips. And that's one of the things that, like, I want everything included, because the person that is serving you, they deserve a full service. Even though when people are like getting to go, sometimes they don't tip because it's to go. How do you think that sandwich is made? How do you think the coffee is made? Even though you're not sitting in front of me, I still make it for you. So therefore, they should get paid, right? And then on the other hand, again, go back as a cook. I'm so tired every time that I bring over the part that we have to be able to spread the tips, or like figure out a better way to compensate the kitchen. It goes back to like, well, that's your problem because you're the restaurant owner. You have to pay them more. Like, so we're doing the 3% for the kitchen, and a lot of people being like, well, that's your problem because you have to pay them more. Well, I cannot pay them more because I don't have money coming in. Like, I'm trying to do the best I can. So I have to be able to spread everything that's coming in through the whole restaurant. Like, it's not that I don't want to pay the kitchen more. Like, that's never a question. It's just a matter of, like, if I'm able to, if I can.
So if I was a restaurant owner at this table and I disagreed with you, and I think that we should the model is the way it should
We're at
be.
Chaval, just for you to know, right?
What's that?
I own this restaurant, right?
Yeah, I know. I don't disagree. I, for the record, think that tipping is an old model.
It's a joke.
And if we want to be treated like other industries, we should act like other industries. And I think if you're employed at a restaurant, you should be salary. Is that crazy to think?
But there's laws that there's Maine laws that are prohibiting this.
So you
that's the
can't
problem.
be salary, meaning the laws are prohibiting it. Or you can't be salary as it's not economically feasible.
So just for you to know, I'm in the middle of labor department investigation right now, FYI.
Well,
everyone to know.
I'm here to learn, so I want
No.
to understand.
So that's one thing that for us, we were like eye-opening. We don't have a lot of salary people in a restaurant. It's something that I discussed with them. That's why I said the whole part of being the porter. But that's one of the things that the first question is like, okay, how many salary people do you have? And then we're just like, we just have 2. And they're like, okay, give me everything they do. So you have to like break down everything they do. They check with every employee to make sure they're doing what we're telling them to do. In the restaurant business being salary, you have to have determined activities or duties that you do on regular basis. And everyone at the restaurant should know those duties.
We should all have job descriptions, right?
Yeah, but the thing is like, it goes to the point like, for example, if you're my sous chef, right? You're my sous chef. So when I'm not in the building, you're in charge of managing the restaurant. Now it comes down to like how much percentage-wise do you manage the restaurant? So if I happen to be at the restaurant 80% of the time and you manage 20% of the time, that's less than your 50%. So therefore, you cannot be salary. You have to be hourly. Right. Even though
these are all laws that are specific to the restaurant industry.
Yes.
So these laws were created because it was messed up to begin with.
Yeah, but like this is so when you break down a restaurant, like how the restaurant works, if you're my sous chef, you're in charge of doing ordering, you're in charge, like you're my eyes. So like if I get sick, I have to go out, I have to do events, whatever that may be, you're my right hand. The thing comes down to like how much time, and I'm at the restaurant where when everything comes through me as a chef owner. And that's a part that it's hard. So like now we go back to the basis of how we break down the kitchen. So now I cannot call you my sous chef and I cannot pay you salary. Now I have to pay you hourly. But then when I'm at the restaurant because I'm doing an event, then you're the sous chef. But when I'm here, you're hourly. So like it just comes like really complicated, and it's not, I don't know, to me it feels like it's not fair. Or then like I have to make sure that every single person knows every single thing you're doing. And if I take one of those duties from you, maybe because I have more time. Right now that is slow, I have more time to do a bunch of other things that I don't need anyone to do. Not that I don't trust people to do it. That's not what I mean. I just have more time. I just have more like office time at home. And that's one of those things that it gets hard to see like that line. And it's something that I going through the middle of it right now. Like we have a sous chef that this is 2 years ago, a sous chef that was doing a bunch of things, but it just happens that I was here 80% of the time, but he was salary. So now we're going back like, okay, I have to pay hourly when I was here, but then his salary when I'm not here. So I have to go through like every single week to see the times that I was here and the times that I wasn't here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of restrictive for salary. You have to be in charge of a certain amount of people. There's your pastry chef can't be salary unless she or he has done 4 years of culinary school. Like there's a lot of weird little, some of them archaic, some of them it's pretty strict.
I consider myself to be pretty moderate. I'm right down the lane of most things in life, but it's the part that makes me want to lean right sometimes is the overregulation of things.
It's I mean, you should be able to. I understand the reasoning behind it when people were taking advantage of the idea, and instead of paying OT, they're trying to prohibit you from getting out of paying OT so that they don't want you to put 10 people on salary so you don't have to pay OT. I get that. But you do need a chef and a sous chef and a GM, like the bare minimum to run your restaurant. But it is pretty restrictive. And it also depends, it is a little gray line, it depends on your Department of Labor person, and it depends on who's in the administration at the time and how they read the laws. Tip credit's very, going back to that, it's complicated no matter what you believe. And we might not see 100% eye to eye, but the public doesn't understand, there's confusion about people. The big one is they need to make minimum wage, but we are required to pay them minimum wage, whether they make it in tips or not. That's a big misconception whether you believe people should be tipped or not, doesn't even matter. The misconception out there from the general public is what I'm talking about what it bothers me. And even from someone like perhaps Shelley Pingree or, even from our legislators who I've met face to face, and they absolutely do not understand what they're necessarily saying.
It's a complex industry.
It is a complex industry.
And there are no two restaurants that are exactly the same.
And if you're not in it, you're not in it. And I don't expect everyone to understand it, but then maybe you need to learn about it if you're going to speak on it or vote on it or
right. Paige, you had some very clear body language that I don't know if the microphone picked up. Feel free to chime in.
It's just, I was just thinking about how, you were trying to get us to talk more about what we actually talk about during these lunches and things that we've learned from it. And I think all of us a little bit have shied away from it just because it tends to be the more private stuff and it tends to be the harder stuff to talk about. But that, we just keep on supporting ourselves through our mistakes and informing each other of mistakes that we made and or things that we didn't realize. And it might not always be something that you can take action on immediately, but it's something that's good to have in your bank. One example is that one of these lovely ladies had an individual who had a hard time with their general manager, and that person ended up stealing their checkbook. And she was trying to get it back, and then only to come to find out that technically a general manager has the right to have access to the checkbook legally, and that they can technically write checks, and that is all completely legal, which is something that we didn't know. I didn't know that. And the other two ladies didn't know that either. But now we know that. So what actions are you going to take now that you know that?
Now thousands of people know that.
Lock up your checkbooks.
But it is. It's an important thing to know because exactly, like I personally made sure that my checks were not available to the general manager. I have like 3 checks that are available to them as opposed to the whole checkbook. And does that mean that I don't trust my general manager? No, absolutely not. I love my general managers and I do trust them, but people are people, and removing temptation is a smart idea.
And creating protocols as we age and we're not necessarily as in the minutia, each year gets a little bit easier. Then I think the fine-tuning of our businesses and doing things so that other people can step in, letting go a little bit, which is really hard for all of us, I know, but it is something we aspire to one day let go a little bit and have other people help us. So protocols are important as we get on in our business years. So those are important.
What up, Unstoppables? I have a very special offer for you that could potentially change your life. So listen up. Restaurant Systems Pro wants to make 2025 your best year ever. And here's what they're going to do to help. When you sign up for Restaurant Systems Pro through February of 2025, they will do your books, your 2024 books for you at zero charge. Nothing to you, no cost to you to do your books. Plus, you're going to get all of the Restaurant Systems Pro profitability systems. So this is such a no-brainer deal. If you've heard of Restaurant Systems Pro in the past, listening to the podcast, and you've been interested, now is the time to sign up. Head to restaurantunstoppable.com/RSP or click the link below and make 2025 your best year ever.
So I selfishly want to bring it back to the tip thing because I'm just curious. I'm curious if because I want to learn more about this. I lean in the direction we should eliminate tipping and people should just be paid a livable wage. And I think that restaurant owners, if you're paying 20% to tip somebody, just increase the bill to offset the difference.
Then they don't come out to eat.
I
do not agree with that 100%.
Well, if that's true, then we need to address that.
Yeah, but how do you address? So we got to go back to the.
I agree with you for the record.
Where do we address it? It's no offense, but it's sort of unaddressable because, food's gone up. Anyone have that statistic?
It's gone down since 1940. That's the thing that I think people don't understand. Like the average household income spend like 22% of their income on food, and they spend 9% now. So I think that you're right, Michelle. It's a cultural issue, and that the consumer needs to come out and support their community. But we have like the broken food system has people don't know what the value of food is today, and there's like this. We've destroyed the value.
I think, sorry, real quick. I just think it's so easy for everyone. I can't tell you the number of times legislators or people in city council would have told me, just raise your menu prices. That'll take care of it. I can't, because especially in Maine, especially, I guess just Maine, but they are so cost conscious. This isn't New York City, and this isn't Boston, and people treat us like it's New York City and Boston, and that's the big, big problem. People will stop going out to eat.
You're right.
And not one restaurant can do it unless we all do.
Yes, I think that's part of the solution.
There has to be an entire shift.
Ilma?
So 2 things. One, where are people buying their food if their cost is 9%? Because I'm not buying groceries in the same place.
Well,
Trust
no.
me.
So this is like 1940.
No, but like my point is, even like as a family of 4, and we go and shop in 3 different places. We buy local, we buy this, we buy that, and it's not like we buy caviar and like prime rib every week. But dude, we spend a ton of money just in the 4 of us, like 2 kids, Damien and I. So food has gone up.
Food has gone up.
Yeah,
sure.
Our farmers have to make more money, so obviously their prices are right. And it's not like they're making more money because they're living a better quality of life. They have to be able to pay for the grain. They have to be able to pay for the help. So everything is more expensive, even though if you tell me like food itself is not more expensive, their water bill is more expensive, their electric bill is more expensive, their help in the farmer is more expensive. So everything, it's just a triple effect. So everything is more expensive. So I do not agree with the food has going cheaper. I think it's the opposite. And they're saying like to Michelle, like, yes, I can sit here and be like, I want to eliminate tip credit. But I agree with her. Going back, like people think I should raise my prices to pay my kitchen more. What people understand is like you come here and you get a burger for $20. If I put that burger in $25, you're not going to get the burger anymore. And and I still make the bread from scratch. I still buy my meat, local beef, which is amazing, Didi. So I still do everything the same way. Everything the same way. Nothing has changed. But if I want to eliminate tip credit, people are going to be upset because my prices are higher. So I don't go by like, oh my God, that restaurant is paying everyone correctly. I'm going by that restaurant is so expensive.
Right.
People are incredibly discerning about every 10 cents they spend on food. Alcohol, it's a blind eye.
Right.
But every dime they spend on food, like I'm the same. I'll say, oh, they raised that 50 cents. Like you automatically, whether you're aware or not, adjust your satisfaction from that. And that's why it's not that, like, it has to be a whole shift. And then, like, there's the bad that comes with that. Like, we say so-and-so restaurant's charging $22 now for a burger, but that place charges $20, so I'm going to go there. Like, everyone has to do it.
Yeah. Paige, you had some body language. Sorry.
Not everyone has to go out to eat. Especially since COVID, people have learned to cook. So, they just won't go out to eat, or they go out to eat once a week or once a month. Or,
I think there's also the other variable. There's more restaurants per capita today than ever before. I think that kind of plays into it a little bit. There's more options for the consumer than ever before.
Portland has always been crazy. Like the ratio for us here in Portland has always been crazy. So that for us here in Portland doesn't make a huge difference.
Well, then, but at the same time, people are eating differently than ever before. So you have more restaurants, but you also have more meal kits. You have you have different things where people will send you like the Blue Aprons of the world. Right. So there's you can order on your phone, you can pick up, you can
DoorDash. There's
so many options, and the world of food is just diversifying so much to meet people at different points in their life. So I think that this game of convenience. Also, I think to your point, the consumer is very fickle when it comes to if you're alive today, all you know is a cheap food system. It's literally all you don't know anything else because the food system has been broken for that long. We got so good at producing a lot of shitty, cheap food. And we as a society have acclimated to it, my belief. You don't have to believe with what I'm saying. But unless you were born in 1940, like all you've known is a centralized food system.
Well, you can go to McDonald's and pay, I think it's $18, $19 for a combo. And this is the thing, like you go to McDonald's, pay $20, whatever, 19, whatever it is for a combo. You can come to a duckling, and I actually did the math this morning because somebody just got something, and it was $17.65 for like a sandwich that will make everything from scratch and a drink. So you can do the same thing in a local restaurant, but people always gravitate. Like you can see like lunch, drive around lunch. You have restaurants, even hours, like you have like a few people here and there, but you go to the McDonald's drive-thru, that thing is like half an hour, like it's so long. Like people still go to fast food places because they think it's more affordable. But it's a lie. Like you can come to any of our places and you're going to spend the same amount of money. And you're eating better.
Paige, I put the mic there for a reason.
I mean, yeah, I think it's just also the general perception, and I think everybody really said basically what I was trying to say as far as that, you know, I would love to go to not tipping, but I think another challenge that comes into my mind too is how do you incentivize your front of the house to sell? Because, you know, if they work off of commission, essentially, which is basically what tips are, how do you incentivize them to continue doing that?
Is profit sharing an option?
I mean, sure. I mean, there are different ways of doing it. There are other ways of doing it, but, you know, but on top of it, we've already talked about how slim the margins are and how slim the profits are. So
Also,
you know,
front of house is fickle. If, you know, they don't want to wait a week or 2 weeks to see that tip reflected in their paycheck. They want that instant validation of, oh, I did a great job. So again, unless the entire industry shifts, and I haven't done my research, I haven't read books, but I do wonder, like the metropolitan industries that have had a successful model of no tipping, and how that relates to Portland, because Portland is a unique
I don't
case.
think there are.
Yeah, that's
Same.
what
I mean,
my question is.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the other thing is, how do we keep servers? Why would you do this job? It's a hard job. And if you're not going to make more than the hour, if you're just going to make $17 an hour instead of $40 an hour, why the hell would you do it? You'll go somewhere else. We won't be able to get servers. That's my big fear with this.
It is really about preserving the dining out experience. If you want
and fine
to be
dining,
taken
I
care
mean,
of.
the amount of stuff you have to know and the amount of stuff you have to learn and the amount of stuff you have to do, then why would you be a fine dining server? And then you could just go to Applebee's and do your shift and be done and not care. You know, our servers care and they learn and they have homework and they, I don't know. I go between both, but I'm not sure we're totally ready to get rid of it. I lean towards like a European style service charge, but that's not legal technically in Maine. And that I find that to be, I think that's the answer. You know, there's an 18%, or like in California, they do it. You have an 18% service charge added on to your bill. So you know the burger's $20. There's a service charge, and then you can tip more if you want. But we tried something similar. So we used to do the 3%, and then we tried an 18% service charge. So the 18% service charge, you weren't paying any more because that was the tip. As a matter of fact, if you usually tip 20%, you were not asked to tip 20%, but it was already included. And our customers went berserk. So we went back to the 3%, which is added on to everything. So you still pay the tip, and then you paid your 3%. So they were paying more, and they were more okay with that than the service charge. So we have a lot of work to do. Yeah, I know, and I don't blame it, you know, because if you have a crappy server, that's sort of not fair. But I don't know, like, I don't know what the answer is.
I think the one other thing to keep in mind, the difference between the staff that you get in the front of the house and the back of the house is the back of the house are there usually because they're passionate about cooking and because they love what they do. There are lifers in the front of the house, but a lot of times they're doing it just for the paycheck. And they're doing it because they have some other passion that they're trying to pursue, and that this just allows them to get the biggest bang for their buck and still give them the time that they want to do what they need to do.
I don't have all the answers. I do like to poke the beast, though.
You took us going a little bit.
And and I want you to know I hear you and I understand, and I think that it all. I don't own a restaurant, so I think I can say this without getting the backlash. I think it comes down to the consumer and just a lack of knowledge and a lack of understanding of what it takes. And I think it's going to take a cultural shift. And I think the only way it's going to happen is if we can convince the consumer what's in it for them. What is the benefit for them by choosing to put their money in different places, which is going to be a hard sell, but there's absolutely benefits into it. What's up, Ilma?
I think it's like you don't have. So to me, going back, like I think it's not. You don't have to convince a consumer. You have to convince a consumer and the worker. You have to convince both sides. And that's a part that is really hard. Like going to Paige's point, like every time that I tried to talk to our previous front of the house, and we're really lucky, like our team is awesome in both restaurants, so we're really lucky. But when we try to talk about like, hey, what if we do this? What if we do that? The answer I get is like, well, the back of the house, you know, you're going to make less money because this is what you want to do for life.
Right.
So to me, that's a slap in the face.
Yeah.
So like, because I want to do this for life, because I love what I do, I deserve to make less than you. It's not fair.
I think a reality is, if you're getting away from like fine dining, I think a natural progression of the industry is that we're going to end up getting away with servers.
But that's not to me, again, like that's not right. Like, you know how cool it's like you walk into a restaurant and people know the type of water you want. And
I don't think fine dining is going away. I just think that they're going to see fewer fine dining restaurants, and there's going to be fewer people who can afford that level of service.
Yeah, which sucks though. One of the reasons that I cook and I love fine dining is because I want to bring that experience to other people. And we try to do that here. So like, yeah, we're not the cheapest restaurant, but we're not the most expensive restaurant. But we want to make sure that your service here feels casual, but also elevated at that point. And I think you guys all being here, so I hope we're achieving that. But that's the whole point, is we don't want to just see people for the money that you bring in. That's one of the things that I tell our front of the house all the time. Is when you walk into a restaurant, you automatically know they see you for the money.
Yeah.
And when you decided not to drink, like I remember when I was pregnant or when I walk into a restaurant with my kids and like they look at you like, okay, this lady's going to get everything to share and there's not going to drink. And automatically the service goes to like 70% effort.
Well, you've seen like the casual dining counter service operations that kill it, right? It's high elevated food. You queue up in a line, you get your stick with a number on it, you find your seat. The food's great. You have food runners. You have people who are hospitality floaters, who are tapping tables, looking for water, helping. But you're like eliminating so much of your labor cost when you do that. But it's still a profitable model. And you can have one of those restaurants in your suite of your business portfolio of restaurants that's your cash cow that makes money. And if you're passionate about high touch, fine dining, what's stopping you from doing that? But you're going to have a different target market that can support that.
So we opened a duckling.
Yeah.
For the same thing. We're like, okay, we just have a counter. It's like huge shape counter. It looks like a bar. It's in the morning, blah, blah, the whole thing. And honestly, I don't have what it takes. Like, I don't want to see, like, I don't want you to be number one, number 100, whatever it is. I want to make sure that you're Michelle. I want to make sure you're Theresa. I want to make sure you're Paige. I want to make sure you're Eric. So even though we try to do that, and that's something that Damien always makes fun of me, we tried to do it, and we tried to go simple. And I remember when I was talking to Paige, she was like, no, we're just going to sell pastries. And they're like, well, maybe sandwiches. No, but that's it. We're not going to sell anything else.
I had a soup there today.
Yeah. I was like, we're not doing anything. And then we're like, well, but I really like this. Like, let's do this.
That
and like
English egg sandwich, English muffin sandwich.
Thank you.
Freaking phenomenal.
Thank you.
And
So
that's what you're preserving.
Yeah.
But
You're preserving.
I'm with you, ladies. I want to preserve Main Street. That's why I'm here, and I think I'm trying to get people to share information. I don't have the answers, but I've seen.
Do we?
Yeah, but I think we can get one step closer if we start sharing perspective, and I think it's going to be probably a combination of a bunch of different perspectives and finding balance. I don't know what that looks like, but I think.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say. I mean, like, the restaurant experience is a reflection of somebody's personality and their art.
Yep.
And there's no one size fits all for that. There isn't. From restaurant to restaurant, even if it's the same owner, there's no one size fits all.
Right.
So to have very restrictive legislation, that it just makes it one step harder for someone to share their art.
100%. I full-heartedly agree with everything. I'm in the process of trying to start this book that I want to call The Unstoppable Path. So when I started this podcast, I was like, I'm going to find the path to success. I'm going to put a big old spotlight on it. I'm like, here it is. And I literally almost drove myself crazy because I was like 8 years in and I'm like, I still have no fucking idea what the right way to do this is. And like, the thing is, I think the reality is there is no one way in the restaurant industry. There is no one destination. There is no one singular type of person that's successful. It's each path is dependent on the person who's steering the ship, their strengths, their weaknesses, their vision, their values. Like, where do they want to go? Like what? There's so many different types of restaurants you can open. I don't know, but there are some common paths that are out there that a lot of people seem to have success with. But to your point, like some people get into this industry because they want to scale to 100 locations and they want to be the next McDonald's of the world or whatever. Other people just want to sit in their kitchen and make pasta because they love pasta. It's their passion. And they love to see people eat their pasta. And they can make $80,000 a year for the rest of their life. And if they get to make pasta every day, then they're successful. who can define it? Go ahead, Paige.
I just also want to point out that all three of us own our buildings. And you did own your building. Well, you still own.
I still own it, but yeah.
And I feel like the four of us definitely have. Sorry, not three of the four of us. We have very similar practices in a lot of things, but that's not to say that we don't have. We do have different perspectives on some things, and the whole like social media. We listen and we don't judge. I feel like that's legitimately what we do because we respect what each of us decides to do, and we listen to how they get to that point. But that doesn't mean that we want to do it and that we necessarily agree, but we respect it. And yeah.
What, and
Treats, go ahead. I just want to say that I have to dip out because I have an appointment. But
We're going to wrap it up now too, I think. It's a good timing.
Well, I just want to say when we go to restaurants, we also learn something from the restaurant because we can't just sit and eat. We're like, oh, did you see they did that? Or, and so it's totally fascinating too. So we pick up something from where we go as well.
We're going to wrap it up. I do want to give you ladies an opportunity to leave a call to action. It sounds like there was a call to come join us at one point in the conversation. Is that something that I reading between the lines or?
I think Ilma said it.
Yeah. So how do we find you? Who's the point of contact? How do we find out where
Paige.
these are?
Paige.
Paige. What's the call to action, Paige?
Oh God, no! I just did an interview.
How can they reach you, Paige, if they want to come out to lunch?
or start your own. Yeah.
No, I mean, I really, really encourage you to reach out to your own community and to see who the people are already within the community that you feel like you align with and you feel like you trust, and to reach out to them and to make your own community. And, even if you don't think you have the time, make the time. Because you make the time to do the things that you want. I know that, Ilma, for example, so incredibly busy, but Damien, her husband, was like, no, you need to make time to do this. Right. It's important for you to have that outlet, and it's important for you to have that time.
I think he was trying to preserve himself, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Social media.
Oh, social media?
Instagram, if we want to get in touch with you, Instagram, is that enough?
Yeah, sure. So, Instagram's a great way.
Which handle?
My personal one, honestly, Piage Gould @gmail.com.
Sweet Ilma Lopez. Yeah, that's my Instagram.
Oh, I said it.
Oh my God, I have no idea. I told you I'm the old lady. I have no idea. You can find me on Facebook. My kids are going to be so
Gmail, so that's not even a right handle.
I'm Mom. I'm on Facebook. But if you do find us or anyone else in your community, I would say you don't have to go out to lunch. Ask the question. We will always help. If you want to email us, reach out to us on Facebook, have a question. Or if it's not us, somebody in your neighborhood, don't be afraid to ask the question.
And it's Michelle, MICHELLECORRY 2337 if you want to follow.
That's my
her.
Instagram.
And,
okay.
I don't know. My Instagram's locked down.
Oh, okay.
Or not? I'm not locked out.
Yeah.
No, I'm just pretty.
Well, we'll link
private.
to those social handles so you can get in touch with one of these ladies if you're interested in joining them. And I just want to say, I call. If you have to get out of here, I don't want to hold you up.
I'm
Teresa,
taking the cake.
Thank you.
Bye, Teresa.
Nice meeting you. And I'm going to get you on the show. I want to share your story eventually. Whenever you're ready, let me know. Please and thank you
so much for having me.
Of course.
All of you.
Thank you.
Of course.
Bye, Teresa. Thank you.
I just want to say, what you ladies are doing, and what I'm trying to create at Restaurant Unstoppable Network, I'm going to do a selfish plug here, is to create space. Every other week, I host a space called Coffee with Eric, and it's literally what you ladies do, where anything you want to talk about. What's your challenge today? What do you want to talk about? It's a space with restaurant owners from all over the country coming, making themselves available. And then we also have a profit power hour where Fred Langley, the CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is there to help you bring your P&L. We will break it down. We'll look at it. We'll share information. And this is just the beginning. The vision is to get mentors, people from all walks of life in the industry, whether it be fast casual, QSR, whatever, there to help segment people, find people that are in their space that are looking for help. But we go further together. And my dream, my hope is that Restaurant Unstoppable network spills over, and we encourage people to do exactly what you ladies are doing here, to find your own group of people in your community and to go further together. Because your community is likely a unique community, and you need people who are going through what you're going through where you are physically. So I just want to like take this opportunity to make an example of you ladies. I want to encourage more people to do what you're doing. And if you want to break the ice and start with the digital community, Restaurant Unstoppable Network, we're here for you. And if you can't afford the $47 a month, let me know. Like if you need to get in, I'll make sure you get in. If you need the help, we'll figure it out. So thank you ladies so much. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
No, I just think like rising, what is that?
Rising tides raise all ships.
I mean, I think that's been Portland more than any other community, and then these women in particular. But the restaurant industry in Portland, I think all the owners, and that's just how I feel about it. So I think we're really blessed to be here. And
like to your point, like you can go to a restaurant, like, okay, where can I go next? And people don't recommend themselves; they recommend all this group of restaurants. So it's pretty. That I do have to say, like, it's pretty neat that everyone recommends each other.
Yeah.
So, like, it's like you can go and we can all tell you, like, at least 10 different restaurants for 10 different dishes that you can go. Like, because we understand, like, I think all of us understand that you don't come to Portland just for one restaurant. Right. You come to Portland for the whole experience.
Right.
And I'd rather have you having a whole weekend out of it, because I can have you more times coming to Maine to support the whole restaurant industry instead of just, like, one time just coming to Chaval.
Right.
Like, that's not doable or realistic.
Right.
Yeah. We're going to do our best also link to any of the tools and services that might have been mentioned. I know you're working with that HR company, the mental health. What's that? Well Space at Work. That was mentioned. Great. You're also mentioned during your episode. I'll have the social handles to these ladies linked too if you want to reach out to them. And we'll also have a link to Restaurant Unstoppable Network if you want to join the national community of restaurants. And I just want to say, ladies, I literally cannot do what I do without people like you who, again, sit down, get vulnerable, share perspective, live by. You are the example of, I think, what's going to change this industry. And I do believe we're on like the heels of a revolution. And I think things are going to be changing. So thanks for taking the first step.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Cheers.